Here.
Alderman Haas.
Here.
Jerry Matter.
Here.
Jim Lozinski.
Here.
And Karen Gale is not here. We have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Thank you, sir. First item is approval of the minutes of the July 13th meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to the meeting?
I move approval.
All in favor, please say aye.
Second.
Aye.
Okay. Minutes stand approved. Item 2, resolution to consider termination of land use restriction agreement between the Community Development Authority and Veterans Park LLC for the property at 1441 South 68th Street. Patrick, you have the floor.
Mr. Chairman, some of you might have been around here when this development, this was our second TIF district. The city developed the corner of pretty much 70th and Greenfield Avenue. I think there were a number of different bars and commercial uses in there that was redeveloped into a senior living community. Today it's called the Landmark on the corner there. And this is a provision that was on the property related to how the project was financed using housing redevelopment bonds, and those have all been satisfied. And they are selling the property, the current property owner and the developer from the time of this agreement, and they're asking for the release of these restrictions. And we are recommending to execute that agreement and approve that.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. Yeah.
Alderman Haas.
Yeah. What's the chance of them changing this into a strip joint, into something bad, which is exactly what the LURA is supposed to keep from happening? There isn't much of a chance.
Right. I don't think that with the size of the development that's there in terms of senior housing and the apartment building, but yeah, I don't think that would happen. But zoning would control that.
It would. They would not get a liquor license. Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Alderman.
Patrick, LURA Land Use Restriction Agreement, am I guessing that correctly? Is that what LURA stands for? Okay.
Any other questions regarding this item? Can I have a recommendation for a motion to?
I move approval.
Second. Second. Any further discussion? Not. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Resolution opposed? Resolution passes. We'll go to item number 3, resolution established in 2023 payment schedule for a housing choice voucher program. Patrick?
Slow. Moving slow. So last month we kind of talked about the payment standard in relationship to an issue that was arising, that rents were are rising and the payment standard was low, and HUD said, well, you could go for an appeal to change it. Well, now the new payment standard has come out with fair market rents. And you can see here where the rent was, let's just say for a one bedroom in 2022, 827, and then you see the payment standard is 909, and the fair markets now that have come out are 909, and we can go to 110%, so almost $1,000 for a one bedroom apartment. And if with this adoption, we saw that if this is adopted tonight, that the people that we were reviewing in terms of recertifying for their Section 8 voucher, where they would be forced to move because of the payment standard we had, and if this is adopted, they would not have to do. So it's a significant change in terms of the rents have gone up, and HUD establishes these fair market rents based on what they see in the market.
Go ahead, Mr.
Just a
Dillon.
comment, the Milwaukee Business Journal had an article about rents, 14% in city of Milwaukee, went up from year to year.
I move approval.
Just a second.
Second.
Then we'll approve for a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passes. We go to item number 4, discussion on 116th and Morgan. Patrick?
For this slide. I bring this up just to the CDA's attention because this has been a topic. We've sent in our site investigation report to the Wisconsin DNR, and they have the right to review. And based on our consultants' review and figures that we have, they feel that it's a developable site. Now, the DNR came back and said they would like to see a few more rounds of methane testing. And so we'll have to do that. I don't have the, what that would be, but it'll be some seasonality to it, a couple more months. What they do, just, there's wells that we have. You come up, you open it and take a reading, and then you leave it open, then you come back and take another reading to see if it's ongoing release, and then if it's coming out, then it's called passive venting, and to determine what type of venting would be put into a development on that site. But they're asking for a few more rounds of testing. So there is a new person, a project manager from the DNR for the site. We had to go above that person just to have a discussion and bring in a little bit more training involved. So, as in a lot of industries, there's a turnover, and we're dealing with new people, and we're working through that. So our consultant is still cautiously optimistic that it's a developable site.
This person from the DNR, are they in Madison? Or are they?
Yes.
Okay.
We did go, like I said, above. That person's name is Pam Malata. We've worked with her before.
Well, thank you. Any further questions of Patrick for item 4? Okay. We're going to hold 5 and 6 for a closed session, and we'll go to number 7, discussion on 6771 West National Avenue. Patrick.
I'm going to turn this one over to Sean.
Thank you. This is just a brief update on this CDA-owned property, former Kearney Trecker manufacturing building. There's a letter of intent that Baum Revision has with the CDA for exclusive rights to develop it. And so there's just an update on where they are at. They had originally submitted the single issue review to the State Historical Society and National Park Service. Given the number of windows and the costs that would go into the windows as part of the attempted restoration of the building, they were able to take this single issue to the National Park Service to see if they could replace the windows instead of restoring them, because that would sort of set the mark for how they would redevelop the property. So the National Park Service came back and said, well, you haven't given us enough information for us to agree that you can, just, put in new windows that look like the ones that are there. We want you to just replace the existing ones in place. And so that's not something that can work for, if you're going to restore the building with our values and even structural support issues and things like that. And so that's sort of what they've sort of teamed up with an engineering firm, an architect, and they've gone back to their historic consultant, and they've sort of brought back, we wrote a support letter, indicating the importance of the building to the city and the difficulties, that we've had restoring it up to this point, and how important it is to get it restored at a reasonable cost. And so they're submitting this team effort back to the National Park Service. They've added a little a carrot to it for the National Park Service, in that they would restore, a portion of one of the window walls. They'd sort of rebuild it back into the building. There's sort of this partial second floor where the original plans kind of showed it, and it was never built out. And so they would essentially just sort of bring back in those exterior windows on the interior where it was originally planned. So they've put together a convincing argument. Hopefully the National Park Service, goes along with it. They do get 60 days to review it, and so, potentially we could be back here next month with a decision, if not that, in 2 months. So they've put a lot of resources into this, money, time, and all that. At the end of the day, how this plays out will determine whether it's Baum Revision or another developer. They would have to work with the National Park Service to figure this issue out, and they're really doing it on their dime. And so we'll see how it plays out, and that'll let us know how to go forward. There could be other options for reusing the building. There could be demolition. It would all be on the table. So.
I don't know. Mr. Clark wants to start his bulldozer up for it already, right?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Alderman Weigel.
Sean, do I understand, so
The big problem is the R value on the windows, so if we're expected to just essentially replace those. That would really only work for the original use of the building, some sort of foundry or mechanical construction where keeping it climate controlled isn't that necessary, or at least back in the good old days when it cost you nothing to heat a building compared to now. But if we want to have it climate controlled, heated and cooled, we need new windows that will look substantially like what we have there. And then you said they're going
And as well as there's a structural element to it too,
Okay.
because that's the whole side of a building that's
Right.
being held up
yeah.
by windows in their framing.
Oh, okay.
So-
Yeah, those old windows are really embedded in heavy steel framing in them, if you really look
So
close
the frames
at it.
themselves.
Yeah, so I'm sure there's some structural value in those.
And that's part of why they have Pierce Engineering as part of their submittal.
And some of the existing glass is going to be moved inside for some sort of partition wall or something like that.
And to pay homage to the
Yeah,
construction.
yeah, as part of it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, all right, we'll go to item 10. Patrick has 2 items on it, and then if anybody else has, please speak up. Go ahead, Patrick.
Just so everybody knows, we do get a monthly update, or actually a weekly update, on the hotel on South 70th Street. You can kind of see I have 2 slides on it. This is the way it came. It gives you a report on what's being done in the progress of the last update and what's anticipated for the next 3 weeks. You can kind of see they're going to start rocking the guest bathrooms and doing the interior. The important thing to note on the right is completion date is February 12th, 2023, and that's a few months before the deadline in the development agreement. So I did want to show you that we monitor this. I did, just before this meeting tonight, call Scott Yelk. They are working with a prospect for the site. It's under a NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, so he can't share the details of it, but it is a sizable office tech type of development of some sort. So we'll see how that might materialize here in the future. We are planning to schedule a time to go walk the site, like to see the hotel, see how things are progressing, and review maybe some of the site concerns that we might have there. So his contact tonight was, is there a way that we can connect the East Office parcel site to the Hank Aaron Trail, which we are doing a connection on 72nd Street currently. And the idea is maybe there's some sort of marking or signage that we could link up to that east side area. So that site is actually serviced by 2 points. The Washington Street access point that goes down to the Hank Aaron Trail near the 53rd Street, I believe, 58th Street.
58 or
Yeah.
all the way down to Holly Road.
Right, Holly Road there. So there are connection points.
It would be
there,
cool
so-
if we make a connection directly from the south side in. I don't know who owns all that property and all that. There's some grade separations there.
Right.
Yeah, that would be bigger money, I think.
Right.
You mean right down 76 behind those buildings and stuff?
Well, at 72nd, that's in process, right over here by
Yeah.
Dawes. But just east of 70th, there's a real big grade separation there and behind the old Alice Chalmers plant
Yes.
and all that. It would be
Yeah.
expensive.
Yes.
Well, one is a big retention pond back there that could certainly be gone. You know, no water in it anyhow.
There is a-
Not the big pond, but there's another one back there.
Yeah, there's still
Not the
water.
wet one, but there's another one back there.
Right. And the other thing, we continue our discussions with the Urban Pioneer Project. We did get an updated pro forma on this. You know, that's an estimated $14.8 million development with an estimated, their estimated value of it is around $12.5 million. Get to the next slide. Here's some more elevations of the project. The big 3 issues that we have on this project and we're working through is one is the valuation of the units. You know, the market based on our city assessors around 203 median value of a condo project, and what they're showing in this structure is maybe 268. So this is kind of pioneering. I hate to say the word because it's the Urban Pioneer Project, but it's not the first time that we, explored projects that elevated the market. One might say even the West was elevating the market when we did that. Even Tolt Apartments when we
All right.
did those. So when those got funded, we changed the market, and now our rental rate has gone up in the city. The other thing is when we review the valuation based on their pro forma, in the market rate for units, we're coming up with around an $8.8 million fair market value compared to their $12.5 million. So they have submitted a brokerage opinion of value. We just have to go through that. But if we did any structuring of this deal, we should probably use our more conservative number, the 8.8, and if they achieve anything above that, we figure out how we could maybe share that with them or negotiate the deal that way. The other aspect of this is the developer-funded TIF, which is always the goal that we try to do if they're asking for TIF assistance, that they would have to borrow those funds. So with a condo project compared to an apartment development, is usually the developer builds it, sells all the units, and now the HOA owns the building. And as a developer-funded TIF, the developer then leaves. But then there's still this increment stream that has to be guaranteed to pay that debt service that he borrowed, or he or she borrowed, to do the development. Now, that being said, in 2 years, who's there if there's a shortfall? Well, if you read the little clause that's to the right, and it's a little blurry, I apologize for that. This is actually coming from the lender that's willing to lend on the increment stream of the developer-funded TIF, is that the city may have the potential to put a special assessment on each of the units. So in other words, we would put that shortfall payment on each of the condo owners now, that seems a little questionable. We've talked with Ellers about it. I think as staff, we're kind of, we have to get our handle around that, but that just seems really a cautionary measure to go after 42 condo owners to pay an extra amount of tax because the developer borrowed money. So we have to work through those things. The TIF projections and reviewing what it actually can generate, we're going over that this week with Ellers again, just to verify. We like the project, we like the concept, we just got to make sure this is feasible to advance it to the next level. So we like it. I think it'd be great to bring some development to this area, but it is based on that fair market value. There's $1 million gap value of the Pyramex Bank. So when this TIF goes into effect and having an existing value of that much already, it eats away at what can actually be achieved in that TIF district. So gladly answer any questions you may have on that. We have to negotiate a whole development agreement yet. I just wanted to share these three main issues that we see.
Go ahead, Mr. Clark.
Thank you. I realize this is a preliminary, but I don't feel good about the idea of throwing a tax on these condo owners. It just seems to be outside the bounds of good business practices. What other options are there?
Well, the other option is that the developer has to provide some guarantee to the lender and not to us. I mean, it's really, as he said, well, I'll guarantee the value. It has to perform to get that benefit. It's not that we would have to come up with that money. It's the project has to generate it.
Good.
So if they're short, the developers would have to have some sort of reserve account of some sort that a bank could draw on to make up that difference. So they would have to have some sort of collateral of some sort, like any bank would like to see.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Mueller.
My questions are similar in that. Are there any, this can't be the first
That was
TIF
my question.
developed.
No one's TIF, no one's
So
done
you
a
bring up
developer
TIF to
fund
condo.
for
You bring up
condo?
a very good question. There have not been, I've been asking our financial consultants like where they have seen developer-funded TIF projects, and no one can identify an example of this. So again, pioneering, right? We have a little work to do. I think it could come together, but we'll see. But we do have that same caution about taxing each of the condo owners, but there could be another solution to that. And then it really comes down to how the banks are comfortable. The main lender as well as the developer lender, that there could be enough here to make this deal happen.
And he has a lender.
He has the lender on both the main the main construction as well as the developer-funded TIF. We have a commitment letter. So,
Well, let's see.
well,
it-
how it all gets laid out in the development agreement is the next question.
Yeah. Well, like you say, you have some more work to do
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah, can't the developer purchase a bond, a type of insurance?
There's different things that could be done.
Yeah. There, I just solved it. You're welcome.
Is there any other questions for number 10, considerations for anybody?
Do we have anything else in that section?
If not, we'll go. For considerations, items 4 to 9, the committee convene in closed session pertinent to the provisions of section 19.85/1/E for the state statutes for the purpose of delivering and investing of public funds whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. This committee can reconvene in open session after completion of the closed session to consider the balance of its agenda. Can I have a motion to go in closed session, please?
So moved. Second.
Can you take roll call, please?